Hey up everyone, hope we're all doing well. A photo has came out of Ilia Topuria standing right next to Raul Rosas Jr. and a lot of people are talking about Ilia Topuria looking a lot smaller. And that brings up the conversation what has been brought up many a times. Is Ilia Topuria too small for the lightweight division? But just before we go into it guys, if you love keeping up to date with UFC news, make sure to drop a sub as I'm always keeping you guys up to date within the UFC. But anyways, let's get straight into it. So here we have it, the photo of Ilia Topuria standing right next to Raul Rosas Jr. And obviously Ilia Topuria is meant to be fighting at 155, and Raul Rosas Jr. is known for fighting at 135, the bantamweight division. Now, a lot of people, if you look at if it's just me, Cameron, you look at the comments. Now, I think he's going to run through Charles, but why does a 135-pounder look bigger than him? Raul is bigger than Topuria's size and height-wise. Charles by sub. Oh my, shorter and almost smaller than a bantamweight. Oliveira is really going to look so much bigger than Ilia. So those are a few comments. That is the narrative, and that's been a conversation what's been brought up a few times now. Is Ilia Topuria way too small for the lightweight division? Now, I've got to point out the obvious for you guys. Maybe there's a few people who are just Ilia Topuria haters and Islam Makhachev glazers, whatever it may be. I think there's just a lot of that who people don't like Ilia Topuria and find any reason to doubt him. And this is one of those reasons that apparently he looks too small for 155 division. And I will admit, yes, he does look rather small. But at the same time, I think context is really necessary here. In 2 or 3 weeks' time, Ilia Topuria will be fighting at UFC 317. So guess what? He's in fight camp. He's cutting his weight down. Raul Rosas Jr. currently doesn't have a fight planned, so what's he out of? He's out of camp. He's not cutting weight. So, of course, Raul Rosas Jr. is going to look much bigger for a 135er, considering, again, he's not training, he's not in camp, he's not cutting down his weight. You've got to remember Raul Rosas Jr., I don't even think he's in his 20s yet. He's not even in his 20s, and when you're younger, it's easier to cut weight, hence why I look so much more bloated that he's out of camp. You know, when it's so much easier to cut weight when you're younger, and when he gets older, I could imagine he moves up in weight to the featherweight division or whatever. But at the moment, yes, he does look a bit bigger, don't get me wrong, but you got to remember Ilia Topuria is cutting weight, and out of camp Raul Rosas Jr. is only going to balloon up, so that's why it looks like this. You know, I'm sure if Raul Rosas Jr. was cutting to 135 right now, it'll be a completely different topic. But still, the question still brings up, oh, is Ilia Topuria too small? Because it's not just this photo. Of course, when he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, right next to Joe Rogan, he looks very small as well. I mean, Rogan looks much more thicker than Ilia Topuria. But again, this wasn't when he was adding on all this muscle. I think he said, how much does he weigh? Like 190 outside of camp. And he is outside of camp, and he doesn't look that big. Has he been lying? I don't think so, but at the same time, God knows. I'm sure Joe weighs a fair bit anyways, you know what I mean? He seems quite, you know, quite toned and muscular. So it would make a lot of sense that he would weigh a lot more than Ilia Topuria. And let's be honest, Joe Rogan is quite small, and he's quite, you know what I mean, just like quite girthy, you know what I mean? He's quite compact. Whereas Ilia Topuria, he's staying quite slim. But the argument is, the entire time, is Ilia Topuria just too small for that lightweight division? And I keep seeing this, and I keep seeing it, and I keep seeing it. Guys, at the end of the day, just wait until the fight. Just wait until the fight happens. You know, yes, he might be a bit small, but ultimately, size does matter when it comes to moving up a weight division. Don't get me wrong, no matter what your girlfriend tells you, size does matter, lads. But anyways, yeah, just wait until the actual fight takes place. We saw, I don't know if you guys remember it, but Frankie Edgar was the lightweight champion at one point. Frankie Edgar, who was so undersized for that weight division. Volkanovski put on a great performance in the first fight against Islam Makhachev, even though he was a lot smaller. You know, don't get me wrong, size plays a part for sure, but ultimately it all comes down to skill. How good the fighter actually is. Not just the sole reason being size. That's baffling to me. Yes, Charles is a big 155er as well. He cuts a lot of weight. I think he struggles to cut to 155, and I also think he will move up to welterweight at some point. But at the same time, Ilia kind of has that equalizer where he carries a lot of power. We saw it with Figueiredo when he moved up to the bantamweight division. I was a bit skeptical whether he would do well because he's a bit smaller. He was never a massive flyweight. Yes, he struggled to make weight, but he was never massive in my opinion at flyweight. He just fit in like the rest of the flyweights in my opinion. But when he came up, he looked a bit smaller than a lot of bantamweights. But he still possesses a lot of power, and that helped him win fights against Rob Font, Chito Vera, Cody Garbrandt. that he was able to use his power. So I do think this isn't as big as an issue as a lot of people like to make out. But what do you guys think? Do you think Ilia Topuria is too small for 155? Do you think it matters? What do you think? I'm a bit on the fence, like I say. I think ultimately it all comes down to skill. I think that's very obvious. We've seen it time and time again where smaller fighters have won in higher weight classes whilst being very small. But what do you guys make of all of this? Do you think he's too small for 155? What do you make of Raul Rosas Jr. looking bigger than him? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.